All right, welcome back to another movie review. And today I've got the chance to go and see the new DreamWorks animated film, The Bad Guys. And boy, do I have probably a lot more to say about this movie and kind of the topic of animation than I was expecting when going to see this movie. Um, this is a DreamWorks film with a pretty decent cast overall. Sam Rockwell being the lead as Mr. Wolf um, in that role. But we have this pretty basic storyline, movie where you have a criminal group of bad guys, made up of a wolf, a snake, a piranha, a shark, and a tarantula. Five animals that people characterize as bad and untrustworthy, and are usually the bad people in fairy tales and easy uh, context for things like easy like stories and stuff. And they're on a mission in the middle of the movie to kind of become good guys, but why are they becoming good guys? Without going too much into detail of the plot, you have this little heisty style film where uh, the group of five here, really led by Mr. Snake, who's played by Mark Marone, and Mr. Wolf Sam Rockwell, kind of fighting between feeling out if being bad is the way to go or being good is the way to go. One of the other popular people you have in the movie is going to be, I'm trying to think of her name. Um, the governor Diane, who is a fox, she plays who's played as Zazie Beats. She plays kind of the foil to both really Mr. Wolf's character here, um, and does her best to lead him towards a new lifestyle, perhaps. Um, so I'm gonna break this up into two kind of major parts because this movie has so many different things like I'm coming out talking about. Because the one thing I want to say is this movie is beautifully animated. It definitely we're seeing a transition for a lot of studios into an almost new animated style that I think works better for computer animation that we've seen other places so far. Um, and the actual animation work and how the movie looks and everything is quite beautiful and is really amazingly well done. They use some similar, they use base 3D models per se for characters, but there's a lot of 2D features throughout in the movie that they use that really, for some reason, gives it a painting style look. Um, Something that we're seeing in a lot of other movies and other properties that, especially like non-Disney ones per se, that I think just makes it look cleaner and something about it just looks better. DreamWorks is applying it to their Puss in Boots movie coming out soon. We've seen it in movies like Mitchell's the Machines, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and other projects, including a favorite TV show of mine, which I'm gonna get into a little bit later. Um, and it just really beautifully animated. Um, but to me, this suffers from what has become a pretty generic and normal thing for Hollywood-based films and Hollywood-based studios is the idea that animation as a medium is really only there and is useful for easy to get laugh kid style movies. Um, During the Oscars, and this isn't anything bad about the people who were, giving the award for the best animated film, but people who were involved in Disney live action movies were probably given a script that was like, here are the animated nominees. These are for we know how much these movies means to our kids, and we know how many times they watch these movies at home, and we kind of have to deal with these movies because of that. Again, a very easy little joke in some type of ways, and no problem to the presenters that did that. But Lord and Miller, who are two big producers and almost studio heads that have worked in Sony and the recent years, known for the Lego movie. They were hands on in their the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, hands on with Mitchell's versus the Machines. They kind of came out and said how, you know, we need to do better, not just out of Hollywood, but you know, everybody needs to do better to realize that animation doesn't have to be this base form that's only used, for cheap laughs out of kids' movies in some ways, and that some of the best movies out there are animated projects over time, and it felt very disrespectful to some of these movies that get made every year to basically be lumped into a category of, hey, you're just a kids movie, you're not really trying to be anything more. um, and I look at, like I said, look at movies. Disney is, I think, the reason why their studio has always been ahead of animation is they rarely make animated movies that, yes, while they may be more family movies, the actual storylines and writings that go into them, and the configuration of plots and characters are beyond just simple baseline things that can just get by a kid pretty easily. I think you see it again with Lord and Miller and three different projects: the Lego Movie, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and Mitchell's versus the Machines. Again, these are family movies that you can watch that, in some ways, you know, do play up some stereotypes of generic kid movies, especially things like the Lego Movie. But they actually have a tone, and they have a message, and they have multi levels of understanding that even anybody at any age can hold on to, that is good for filmmaking and art, in a lot of ways. Um, and we're starting to see things that the animation medium be used in different ways, for more adult projects. Probably one of my favorite TV shows of the last year. If you haven't checked it out, it's on Netflix. I recommend it. It's called Arcane League of Legends. It's one, if you love animation, you need to at least give this show a try because it has some of the most beautiful animation out there. Very similar, like I'm saying, this new style we're seeing through this, 3D character models mixed with 2D backgrounds and visual effects that makes it look very painting like, very majestic like. And that's a show that is very adult, in a ways, has violence, has sexual tension, has political drama, has a script that was very well written top to bottom, that they use animation to support it visually. And we're seeing projects like that get made, and you're seeing this medium used for more positive adult style things. But that brings me back to the point with the bad guys, to where this feels like a movie where the studio was like, here's this generic present, Australian comic series about these animals that are generically bad people, who do crimes and stuff and becoming good. Let's take that generic stuff and just put it into a cookie cutter, simple movie that will get a few kids to laugh. This movie tries to put a little different overtone in different ways of what it means to be good and what it means to be bad, but it's littered with a lot of just base, um, writings that you see in kids, in films that are just targeted towards kids, um, that I think is just lazy and, you know, no, lazy is just the word I can say it. You have the ring of fart jokes the whole time. You have the four or five of the same jokes over and over and over again that are kids' jokes. Um, you have little references every now and then. This movie is very beautiful with animation, but it's very soulless in story and plot. Um, and it's something that I think we need to start getting away from, and not rewarding as much with these films, in the animation department, because this is what studios think animation's good for. It's good to put together a nice, easy kids movie that families will go see in theaters and watch on streaming, and they don't have to try their hardest for it. Now, I'm not saying the cast of the voice cast wasn't great. That really was. The animators were amazing, but the base script level of this movie was almost insulting of the work that went on around them in terms of voice cast work and all the animation went the department. It's a very hollow movie in a lot of ways, at least for me. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of families there. We got some laughs here and there for kids, but I think I got the most reactions in my theater during the trailers of the Spider Verse Across the Spider Verse movie that'll now be coming out next June. Sadly, it got pushed back a few months, and the Lightyear trailer. And both of those are examples of animated properties that are family movies. You watch them with your family, but they have such a more mature and realistic feel to them in some ways, that again, I don't want to like just sit here saying loving other movies, but it kind of treats its audience, both young kids and adults, with respect. Where I feel the Bad Guys doesn't do that on a script level. It's a very generic movie that plays the same dumb jokes that get kids to laugh at. And if you're an adult, you might enjoy parts of this movie. You might come out and say that wasn't that bad, especially if you're with a kid and you have a kid in the theater that enjoys it. You'll get your enjoyment out of somebody else enjoying the movie. But I think when you take a look at this movie by itself, it's pretty baseline cookie cutter, not trying too hard script, mixed in with honestly a voice cast and an animation department that put their heart into the movie in a lot of different ways. If you didn't have the animation that you did, coming from the DreamWorks crew and the voice cast giving really great voice work throughout, this movie would feel very blah because it's given a script that's very blah. Um, but you know, the voice cast and the animation alone makes this a watchable movie. I recommend, it's something that if you're looking for a movie for a kid and you've already seen Sonic, or they don't want to watch Sonic, you can go take your kid and they'll enjoy this movie in time at the theater. But I'm really hoping that in the future we can stop getting these animated projects that um, are just playing dumb and not treating both the youth audience and the adult audience with respect. Because the reason why Disney and now Sony and even DreamWorks over the years have had a stranglehold hold on good movies and animation, it's because they treat their audience with respect. You can look at things like How to Train Your Dragons, that series of movies. You can look at things like, you know, Pixar movies, Disney animated movies, some of the Sony movies. Um, you see, Shrek. Some of these movies do have easy little jokes for kids, but they treat their audience with respect with the storytelling happening throughout, because it doesn't matter if you're a kid or an adult, good storytelling always works. And the Bad Guys here, I just think, does not have good storytelling. It has very bland, cookie cutter storytelling mixed in with an amazing voice cast and an amazing animation. And I am sad that we couldn't have gotten a movie that was able to match both those elements in script form, because we could have had a truly special movie, that was rewarding for anybody who goes and sees it, and maybe breaks the stereotype that you can just put off these movies like this for kids, and this is all you really need to use animation for. Um, because you get by it, because you make money off of it in some ways. I hope we do get past that. Like I said, there's a lot of animated movies recently that have done that very well. Animated shows are starting to come a long way, and I just hope we can start seeing the medium be taken more seriously in America when it comes to good storytelling. It's not the fact that the animation's bad. It's just a lot of times the storytelling that goes into these animated properties are just very, very cookie cutter, weak and bland, and just put it out there to make kids kind of laugh, and to get the parents to pay money for that when it could be so much more. Um, and believe it or not, this is the first time this has happened this year, for me. But when I come to my top 10 movies, the Bad Guys did not make it in there. I was struggling between it and Dumbledore, but I found Dumbledore was at least trying to be descriptive on a different level, and I was enjoying some of the things they were attempting and they're doing with the Dumbledore Grindelwald storyline. and what that was telling and relating to than I did with the bad guys as a film. I feel bad because the animation and the voice cast did amazing work in the movie, but I just couldn't get by the very bland, boring, cookie cutter style script that was given to them that happens more times than not when it comes to animated properties that are movies, or even shows. Kids like good stuff. You know some of the best movies of all time are animated movies, like I said, and it's sad that only a couple of them have ever been nominated for Best Picture because a lot of years I think you can take some of the Pixar movies that in the past, and I think they and even some Disney movies and other movies, and you have legit arguments that these are the best movies of the year. I think it's ridiculous that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse didn't get nominated for Best Picture the year it came out because I think it was probably for me one of my top one or two movies of that year. And I know there's a lot of people out there who agree with that. But just the suits in Hollywood and a lot of people in the Hollywood department just see animation as a kid style thing. It's why you rarely see animated movies get nominated for Best Picture. It's why the Emmys separate their animated categories from their actual drama and comedy categories because, you know, nobody is taking the time to watch some of these shows, you know, out there as compared to some of the biggest dramas, which is why, like, for a show like Arcane, which to me was up there with Succession and a couple other shows last year as my favorite top quality show. Um, I recommend everybody go and see it because so many people come back and surprise me, friends and family that say that was great. That was adult storytelling in a way that I wasn't expecting because I thought it would be a cartoon, and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, this wasn't really as much as a review of the bad guys itself, but more of an overall talk about animation and how it's treated. But I thought this movie was the perfect showcase for this conversation, and I hope you enjoyed it. And tell me if you like the bad guys. Tell me if you don't. Tell me if you plan to see it. Um, like I said, it didn't make my top 10 list, but I do recommend if you've seen Sonic already, because I think Sonic is a superior family film. But if you've seen Sonic already, or you have a kid that doesn't want to see Sonic, and they want to go to the theaters, this is the best thing you can get to them right now in the theaters. So I recommend it that way. I think if you're adults on your own, there's a lot better stuff in the theaters right now. Don't spend your money or spend your time on this one per se. Um, and yeah, that's kind of it for today. I will say tomorrow I'm going to start my first first episode ever of the Monday box office report. It was a very interesting weekend of films. We have both Sonic and Dumbledore holding on for dear life against three new movies, two of which are more artistic R-rated films in The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent and The Northman. And we have The Bad Guys here, the family film. And there's a couple other films that are kind of near, hanging around up there, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, and maybe even Morbius per se. Who knows? That we'll talk about all tomorrow on the Monday box office report. So if you want to see more of that, feel free to give a subscription. If you like this video, give it a like. Check out some of my other reviews I have up. It'll be a little bit before we do more reviews. I think I'm going to be throwing in some TV reviews here in between now and the Multiverse of Madness. But that's it for today. I hope you guys had a great weekend. I hope you guys have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. And until next time, stay safe.